The Boston Bruins have added to their coaching staff, and at first glance, this hire seems spot on.
You're Locked On Bruins, your daily podcast on the Boston Bruins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Bruins fans, and welcome back to the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast. I'm your host, Ian McLaren, and this is a daily show where we discuss all things Spoked Beat. Today is Friday, June 20th. Thank you so much for making Locked On Bruins your first listen every day. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. On today's episode, we are going to discuss today's hiring of Steve Spott as a new assistant coach with the Boston Bruins. Been added to Marco Sturm's staff as an assistant coach, and we're going to break down why, what he brings to the table, how he fits into the coaching staff, and also which Bruins could benefit from his presence behind the bench. Before we get into all that, a quick reminder, you can find the podcast on social media at Locked NHL Bruins. And you can find me, my hockey thoughts, dad jokes at Ian C. McLaren. I'm a lifelong Boston Bruins fan, and I've been covering this team for various outlets for about 20 years. First off, apologies for the late drop of this podcast here on this Friday. I spent most of the day on a grade 4 field trip where we went to a conservation area and checked out some birds of prey. So I'm a little wiped, but can't not talk about Steve Spott joining the Boston Bruins coaching staff announced today by the Bruins and new head coach Marco Sturm. The big question, though, is how does he fit into the mix with the other assistants already in place, and what will his role be? Marco Sturm said it himself in the release. Spott is a passionate teacher, and his work on special teams is the big reason why he's joining the bench. It's a bit of a surprise addition because Steve Spott has been kind of tied to Pete DeBoer over the last several stints around the NHL. We'll get to his track record here in a moment, but of course, Pete DeBoer was let go by the Dallas Stars after benching Jake Ottinger and kind of throwing his goalie under the bus, thus leaving Spott kind of free to pursue opportunities elsewhere. And during his 3-year stint with the Dallas Stars, Spott oversaw a power play that clicked at a 23.7% success rate, which was good for 7th best in the NHL over that span. It was better than that at times, dipped a bit this past season, but that was largely due to Miro Heiskanen being out of the lineup for a considerable amount of time. This isn't a small sample size that we're talking about. 246 regular season games, 3 deep playoff runs, including multiple Western Conference Finals appearances. The Bruins' power play last season was not great, and Spott could be the one to get it back to respectability, maybe even in top 10 territory, especially if David Pastrnak gets a bit more consistent support. And remember, Pastrnak was the best forward in the NHL last season, 5-on-5, leading the NHL in goals, assists, total points. Just think of what he could have done if the Bruins' power play was any kind of successful. So Spott brings that special teams credibility, and he also brings familiarity with winning cultures. He worked with several successful NHL organizations and head coaches. Again, Dallas under Pete DeBoer, some deep playoff experience, but was never able to get past the conference finals. Vegas Golden Knights, he was an assistant there as well with DeBoer. Joined the franchise during their kind of competitive peak. San Jose Sharks, he helped oversee their 2016 run to the Stanley Cup final. Vegas, of course, he was pre-Bruce Cassidy. He also, before that, was an assistant with the Toronto Maple Leafs and with the Toronto Marlies, so he's got strong development experience at both NHL and AHL levels. And that range of NHL and AHL experience shows he's not just a specialist. He's a well-rounded coach with adaptability and leadership skills and development pedigree with some international experience as well. Before he jumped to the NHL, he made a big name for himself in junior hockey, head coach of the Kitchener Rangers from 2008 to 2013. After serving as an assistant, coached the Toronto Marlies to the Western Conference Final in 2014, led Team Canada gold at the U18 tournament, and won silver at the World Juniors in 2010 as an assistant. And that background is important, especially with the Bruins working younger players into their lineup and a new development pipeline forming. He also rounds out Marco Sturm's coaching staff for 2025-26. We'll discuss who's still there as well and what he brings, but you're going to be talking about structure, special teams acumen, a teacher's mindset being brought to the staff. It's now Marco Sturm's show, clearly, but he's surrounding himself with at least one new face, thankfully, as well as some experience, detail-oriented hockey minds who can support this transition. Spott's hire specifically checks a lot of boxes: power play improvement, player development, big league playoff experience. He's Ontario-born as well, with deep roots in both junior and pro hockey. Someone who should bring a bit of calm to the bench, with Sturm coming in as a rookie head coach. So, coming up next, we're going to break down what this means for the Bruins power play and how Spott's influence could shift the roles of guys like David Pastrnak, Charlie McAvoy, maybe even Matt Poitras. Coming up right now, we are going to discuss how Spott complements the rest of the Bruins coaching staff, and we'll touch on that here as the podcast continues. Summertime is here, and there is nothing like going to a baseball game. The energy, the rivalries with the Major League Baseball in full swing. There's never been a better time to go see it live, and Game Time makes getting in the park fast and affordable. Game Time gives you last-minute ticket deals, zone deals for deep discounts, panoramic seat views, and all-in pricing with no hidden fees. Plus, ticket prices often drop the closer you get to puck drop, so you can score big without paying. Also, closer you get to first pitch. Right now, zone deals are offering 10% off exclusive zone deals for FIFA Club World Cup matchups. You can see the exact view when you'll arrive at the venue on the app, and it takes all the guesswork out of buying tickets. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply, but again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets at the lowest price, guaranteed. Before we get to who or where, how Spott will fit in with the coaching staff, I wanted to mention a couple players you may be familiar with that Spott had a direct influence from his days coaching in junior hockey, particularly with the Kitchener Rangers of the OHL, where he was head coach from 2008 to 2013. Coached several players that went on to have recognizable NHL careers. One of them, Gabe Landeskog, drafted second overall by Colorado in 2011, played 2 seasons under Spott, including one as team captain, known for his leadership, even as a teenager. And you also have current unrestricted free agent, or he will be on July 1st anyways, Jeff Skinner. Scored 50 goals in his draft year under Spott, won the Calder Trophy in 2011 after being drafted 7th overall by the Carolina Hurricanes. The Bruins are looking to add some veteran scoring on the cheap. Didn't work out for him really in Edmonton, but Skinner could be a guy that the Bruins might look to for a cheap veteran help. Nazem Kadri, Spott coached against him in the OHL and later worked with him in the Leafs organization. Those are some of the recognizable names for Bruins fans. Kadri, Radek Faksa, he coached as well, developed under Spott's leadership, became a reliable two-way NHL forward. But Skinner's the guy I really wanted to point out because he is a free agent and the Bruins are looking for some scoring. Now, when it comes to Steve Spott and how he complements the rest of the Bruins coaching staff, they, of course, have Jay Leach returning. He'll likely continue to handle the defense. Chris Kelly remains in place, overseeing forwards and penalty killing units. Bob Essensa continues in his longtime role as goaltending coach. And, of course, you have Marco Sturm as the first-year head coach. The big question is, how does he fit into the mix with the other assistants already in place? Marco Sturm is the new head coach and will likely take a CEO-style approach, setting the tone, setting the systems, delegating key responsibilities. Jay Leach is expected to run the defense, just like he did under Jim Montgomery and then Joe Sacco after him. He knows the blue line group well and is respected by players like Charlie McAvoy, Hampus Lindholm, Nikita Zadorov. Chris Kelly is entering his 4th season on the staff. His role is a bit more flexible, but he's typically worked with the forwards and the penalty kill. Penalty kill was not great last season either. Kelly was a guy, maybe a bit of a surprise that he's back as well, but that is the unit. And of course, Bob Essensa will work with the goaltending. Spott will likely be tasked with running the power play, using the same blueprint that brought Dallas into the top tier over the last 3 seasons. He's known for structure and communication, exactly what's needed to generate chemistry, quick puck movement, and net front presence on the man advantage. You can expect Spott to collaborate closely with both Chris Kelly and Marco Sturm in tweaking the offensive zone setup, especially for zone entries and bumper play. While they haven't worked on the same bench before, Sturm said that he has a high level of respect and trust in Spott already. He brings great structure and detail to everything he does. And that kind of language suggests they're aligned in vision and coaching philosophy. Spott's experience will help support Sturm in what will be his first full-time NHL head coaching gig. This hire, though, isn't just about running the power play. It's about balance. With Leach on defense, Kelly helping forwards and PK, Spott driving special teams and offensive structure, Sturm now has a well-rounded staff that checks every box heading into 2025-26. Now, we are going to talk about who on the Bruins may benefit from Spott's presence behind the bench, but let's talk for a moment about players who thrived under Spott in Dallas. One of them is Joe Pavelski, a veteran net front specialist. Even in his late 30s, he was a power play machine under Spott, and he became the go-to net front presence, especially in the 1-3-1 setup, where his elite hand-eye coordination led to numerous deflections and rebounds. From 2022 to 2025, he had 73 power play points, proving Spott knows how to keep veterans productive with smart positioning and puck movement. How much would we love to see that from Elias Lindholm? Another guy was Jason Robertson. He became a power play centerpiece, often on the left flank, feeding off seam passes or one-touch shots. Under Spott, he put up 35 power play points in each full season, showing how well the Stars use space and puck rotation to give him room to work. And the structure allowed Robertson to slow the game down and exploit gaps, a Spott specialty. Now, I'm not saying Morgan Geekie's on the same level as Jason Robertson, nor if they bring in a guy like Jeff Skinner, could he reach that level? Fabian Lysell, I mean, they really need some help on the left side for sure. But if they hit in free agency, this could be something that we could see more of. Rupe Hintz operated in the slot or bumper position, using his speed to get open for quick chances and rebounds. And with Spott's designs, he capitalized on broken plays, puck recovery sequences, crucial in keeping pressure sustained. And he scored 10 plus power play goals in back-to-back seasons under Spott. Matt Poitras vibes, potentially. Same with Wyatt Johnston, one of the Stars' younger players, drafted after Fabian Lysell. As an aside, he broke out thanks to Spott's power play structure. Used in a bumper role, he showed high hockey IQ and timing, much like what the Bruins hoped for from Matt Poitras. Scored 20-plus goals in each of his first 2 NHL seasons, with power play contributions growing year over year. On the blue line, Miro Heiskanen. Spott helped unlock Heiskanen's power play potential by encouraging more assertiveness at the top. His zone entries improved. He became more active in puck rotation and deception from the point. Heiskanen's power play assist numbers climbed, a testament to better passing lanes and player movement up top. He didn't just work with elite talent, he optimized them, right? Whether it was an aging veteran like Pavelski, a star like Robertson, young breakouts like Wyatt Johnston, his systems put players in position to succeed. And fans should be optimistic about what that could mean for a few core Bruins. And we'll discuss what that impact could be on these guys here as the podcast continues. Hey, I just want to thank you once again for making Locked On Bruins part of your daily routine. It's free and available on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your favorite team every single day. Today, we're talking about the hiring of Steve Spott as Marco Sturm's final assistant coach. Kind of, forced to retain, but Chris Kelly, Jay Leach, Bob Essensa remaining on staff. Joe Sacco off to the Rangers, and therefore Spott comes in and likely in charge of the power play. So let's look at some individual Bruins who could really take a step forward under his guidance. David Pastrnak, elite production this past season, 43 goals, 63 assists, 106 points, most goals 5-on-5, most assists 5-on-5, and most points 5-on-5. But the power play still left something on the table last season. It was a major reason why the Bruins were the worst team in the Eastern Conference, and a major reason why Pastrnak was well outside of the Hart Trophy conversation. Under Spott, Dallas used layered movement and high slot rotations to free up shooters like Robertson and Pavelski. And you can expect more set plays to get Pastrnak cleaner one-timer looks, especially off the right half wall. And we could very much see a return to 50-goal form from Pastrnak with the benefit of an improved power play. Another guy, Charlie McAvoy. He is kind of the de facto power play quarterback. We saw Mason Lohrei take over that role in McAvoy's absence. And everydayers will remember that, I've talked about several times the fact that Charlie McAvoy is a Norris Trophy level defenseman, but his offensive game leaves enough to be desired that he is not in that conversation. McAvoy does have the tools to be a top-tier power play quarterback, but has lacked consistency, and a failure to break out on the power play has hindered him from breaking out offensively and becoming like a 60-point guy per se. Spott's power play approach often features an active point man, and McAvoy could finally find a groove as a true top unit driver, especially with support options like Lindholm or Poitras rotating in. And we talked about that bumper roll, net front rolls. You could see Matt Poitras, a la Wyatt Johnston, in the bumper position to great success. He's got the IQ, the hands, the vision to distribute or shoot quickly, depending on the setup. A full offseason of development and Spott's structure could help him solidify a top 6 spot. Elias Lindholm, he jumped up to the top line with Geekie and Pastrnak. He's got that net front presence, a nose for rebounds, and he could thrive, as did Joe Pavelski, well into his 30s, which the Bruins will need after having committed to him for this past season and an additional 6. Pavel Zacha and Morgan Geekie, you have guys who can display their soft hands, net front screens, kind of like Jamie Benn did in Dallas. Geekie, if he continues progressing, could also rotate in as a second unit half wall option. And of course, he showed good chemistry with Pastrnak at times last year, and hopefully that can continue. Finally, you have Mason Lohrei. If the Bruins want to diversify their power play look, Lohrei is a natural candidate for the second unit and maybe even for the first unit if McAvoy is not up to the task. And his vision and puck movement could be even more effective with better structure and zone time, something Spott is known to develop in his defensemen. So, all that to say, Steve Spott's track record with power play optimization isn't just theoretical. It's proven. And with skilled guys like Pastrnak, McAvoy, emerging talents like Poitras, Lohrei, whoever they sign in free agency, maybe even a Casey Middlestat. I was saying the other day on social media that the Bruins right now are featuring Middlestat big time in their Bear Tracks segment, which is kind of like following guys around in the offseason, seeing what they do back home, how they're training, what they do off the ice, etc. I don't think they would do that for a guy who is uncertain to come back. He's under contract for the foreseeable future. And if they're going to those lengths to follow him, record him, pump him up on social, I feel like he could be back and maybe has a better chance of being in the lineup than Pavel Zacha come next season. So maybe he'll have that net front screen with soft hands approach like a Jamie Benn. This group could climb into top 10 in power play efficiency as early as next season after just an atrocious showing with the man advantage in 2024-25. And again, maybe Jeff Skinner, no current contract, coming off a down year in Edmonton where he had only 16 goals in 72 games. His value is not high. Maybe the Bruins could sign him, still only 33 on the cheap, and get a bounce back season under him, under Spott, with whom he worked with in Kitchener back in the day. So the hiring of Steve Spott is a smart, strategic move by the Bruins as Marco Sturm builds out his first NHL coaching staff. Again, kind of handed Leach, Kelly, and Essensa. Essensa's track record is proven, although could have used some more of that magic last season with Jeremy Swayman. But Spott brings a proven track record of success, particularly on the power play, thanks to years of NHL experience and a coaching style rooted in structure, communication, and player development. His addition perfectly complements the existing staff of Leach, Kelly, and Essensa, forming a well-rounded group behind the bench. And most importantly, his arrival could unlock another level of production for key Bruins like David Pastrnak, Charlie McAvoy, Matt Poitras, Elias Lindholm, Morgan Geekie, Casey Middlestat, while offering a major boost to Boston's special teams heading into a pretty important 2025-26. All right, that's it for today's episode, my friends. A bit shorter than usual. Again, sorry for the delay with the field trip, but we press on, and next week is going to be big, right? We got the draft coming up next weekend, free agency coming up. in 10 days. So you're going to want to keep it locked to Locked On Boston Bruins for all the latest. There's trades going on. There's re-signings around the NHL. We'll see if the Bruins get in on that action. And if anything does break, I'll be sure to post it on Short, on TikTok, Instagram. So follow along at Locked NHL Bruins on each of those platforms. Please do take care of yourselves, take care of each other, my friends, and I will talk to you here on the next episode of Locked On Boston Bruins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your favorite team every single day.